What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Player One versus the World. I thought I'd do you a quick impressions video on the first tape of Lost Records Bloom Rage, Tape 1 Bloom, which is now available on all platforms. It has been released, and I thought I'd just give you my quick impressions, spoiler-free as well. So I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty, we'll be doing that at a later date, but I just wanted to kind of give you my 2 cents of what I've seen so far. I haven't actually finished it so far. I'm about 70% of the way through. It has been a long grind for me to play through it. I've been taking my time with it as well, so I've kind of, it's going to take me a couple of playthroughs to really get my full opinion made on this game as well, because I'm through the first playthrough, there's a lot to kind of take through, but I thought I'd come on here and just give you my early impressions from what I've seen so far, and just kind of give you some content before, obviously, the big review episode and the big spoilercast episode, which I know people will be looking forward for on the Lost Records Journal podcast. So, for quick transparency and FYI, we got codes for this as well from Don't Nod. So thank you so much to Don't Nod, especially to Don't Nod Montreal senior brand manager Marin, who provided us with codes. That is unbelievable for Don't Nod to give us codes. We didn't even expect it. So thank you so much for that. And also for transparency's sake, I also have bought the game as well, because one, it's to also support the developer, which I was going to buy anyway, but it's to support them, but also as well, it's to kind of give you my unbiased, unfiltered opinion, because I want you to know that I'm playing this from the perspective of someone who's bought it with cash money as well, and feeling like, I don't want to give you an opinion which is based on necessarily getting something for, an early access caveat or, with a code incentive. But I'm very grateful for Don't Nod, and we do need to declare that as well, because it's transparency is very important for this channel. So thank you again for Don't Nod for giving us a code for this game. So in this game as well, I've gone through, I'm about 70% through, as I said. There's still, I imagine, quite a bit of portion of the game left. It is a very interesting game, I will say that as well, and that's, I'm still thinking about it as I'm playing through it. I think it's one of those games that's really kind of like making me think about generally narrative storytelling, about the direction of the industry at the moment. What is it to be a narrative game in 2025? It kind of shows me as well, for example, that this is a natural evolution of Life is Strange's storytelling, that it has to go down this trajectory. You can't basically spawn legacy sequels to Life is Strange and then continue that same tried and tested formula back in 2015. You do have to change things. We've seen Oxenfree come along. We've seen other narrative storytelling games come along that have kind of like really redefined that, and people are feeling fatigued in certain respects on walking simulator games. So, this game has to really drive through an engagement in terms of a storytelling experience. And I'm not going to go into huge thematic story points, but I am enjoying it so far. I'm finding it very interesting to see a coming-of-age story, which is, as Michel Koch, the creative director, has said, a true coming-of-age story, which tells it from, adolescent to adult. So it's, we're changing timelines in the game as well. So it's giving you quite a big perspective, and especially for a millennial as well. I'm a millennial, and I'm experiencing I'm experiencing some hard-hitting truths about nostalgia, and I think that's such a great theme to kind of touch on in this game. It feels like whenever I think anything different about this game, I'm always going back to that thematic theme of what is nostalgia? How do we interpret nostalgia? And we are really kind of like getting into the nitty-gritty of that in the first tape. And I'm enjoying the story so far. It is a bit slow. I think it's a slow burner, but that's fine by me as well. I'm not in a rush anyway. I think this game will age a lot better when both tapes come out as well, because I think when you play it collectively, you'll get the full experience. But naturally, being a slow burner is not really an issue. The first Life is Strange, the first 2 episodes, and the Life is Strange 2, the first 2 episodes, I've said it before on podcasts. I always think that slow burners, they're not, the meat of those games is in those final 3 episodes that you get from it. And it's the same here as well. For now, and where I'm up to, we're just solidifying things, and you need to do that as well. I think that's the truth as well. That's my big defense for this game as well so far. It's like, if you try and fast forward this as well, you have 4 characters that are like your main bulk as well. Like, you have Nora, Cat, Swann, and Autumn. And this, for me, is no different from Final Fantasy 15, for example. That has hundreds of hours to tell, like, a massive game, for example, over a longer period of time. Final Fantasy 15 specifically, I love that game in terms of the 4 main characters you have. And you have to spend a lot of time with Noctis and his crew to really get a full appreciation for how much they carry the story. And it's the same here as well. Swann needs the time with all those characters to kind of really get the story moving. So far, I'm enjoying it. I do agree it's a little bit slow paced, in certain key moments. I think that it could have picked up a bit more speed, but I think naturally we're just trying to get that because, again, this is a coming of age story. And then especially for our audience, at least my age as well, it's challenging nostalgia. It's making you question all those things. I love the fact that every time I go back to adult Swann, I'm getting asked, was that how it was? How was it like this? And you're making the story yourself, but then you're seeing it in that other timeline in terms of the younger version of them. And I'm like, oh, actually, that's interesting. So generally speaking, the story is I'm enjoying it so far. I'm vibing off it. It's really nice to see it, and my expectations have been tempered a lot as well, because I have said this in the lead up to the podcast. If you listen to the Lost Records Journal, that's our definitive Lost Records podcast. I repeatedly said that I don't see this as a spiritual successor as Life is Strange. I kind of changed my tune in the last couple of months about that, because I think it's its own beast, and it needs to be its own beast as well. It can't just be Life is Strange. We've seen struggles with Life is Strange in the last couple of years in terms of trying to find an identity. This has an identity. It's made from the creators of Life is Strange, yes, but it feels different. It feels good as well, and I'm enjoying that for the time being. This is a game that I'm going to probably play at least the first tape, maybe 2 or 3 times to really get a full feeling of that. So, really enjoying that. In terms of the art direction, I think it's beautiful. It's unbelievable. I've really been enjoying it. I will share you one piece as well here. I'm not going to go on too much about it, but this is like a tweet I put out. This is one moment. It's not a spoiler moment. You've seen part of it in the trailer as well, but it's just this shot when the camera led up to it. I was like, God bless Don't Nod. I hope Don't Nod stay in the industry for a long, long time, because that photo in itself is just so nice to look at, and I could just get lost in it in terms of how amazing the set pieces look. Like, the art direction that is made in this game is fantastic, by Juliet and her team, and they are all very talented, and you can see that this effort has been put into the game. As soon as I loaded up the game, the first thing I did was go into the credits and scout out who was in there in terms of the actors, developers. I wanted to see actually like a full appreciation for the people who are making this game, because it's got soul to it. That's the main thing I've seen feeling at the minute. I feel like it's got soul to it, and I'm really resonating with Swann as well. I think she's a fantastic protagonist, and I've only seen about 70% of this first tape as well. So I'm really, getting to grips with the game and finding it like that these people are putting a lot of love into their game. And by the way, as well, I never doubted that they wouldn't put love into their game. You've seen how they've interacted with the community, how much how much every little support means to them as an independent developer. So, the artwork's beautiful. I'm a big fan of the music at the minute as well. The music is fantastic. I think this is maybe even arguably as well, I could make an argument it's the best sound I've ever heard in a Don't Nod game, even more so. Maybe this is recency bias, maybe even reaching that Life is Strange 1 and 2 echelon of music. I think it's just fantastic, the natural audio that's in the game, even when you pick up items as well, and you get that little feeling of things like, the cartridge moving around, you hear the noises, even blowing into the cartridge as well, a bit of 90s nostalgia. I'm really enjoying those little touches that are giving that kind of refined experience, and I'm sure that Adam will probably appreciate as well. He's all about the sound as well, so it's quite nice to see that early sign as well. In my review as well, and my little impressions here as well, I'm going to give a big shout out to a person who I don't think is going to get a big, he's not going to get mentioned in tons of reviews online, because they don't necessarily do this in games industry in terms of picking out certain people in reviews. But for me, the first thing I noticed as well as soon as I played this game was that Philip Bache is back as the VO director. Philip Bache, if you've watched my channel, I've done so many interviews with actors from the Life is Strange series who have worked with Philip Bache. I have unbelievable admiration for the work that he's done in the Life is Strange series as well, and I think this is a great payoff for the Don't Nod team to link back up with him, especially Michel Koch and Luc Bagados, who are studio director and studio executive producer at Don't Nod Montreal. It's great for them to link up with him, and I think he adds soul to the game. I think he adds it so well. He gets the best out of his actors as well. I think that the acting has been really good because of the range that he's getting out of them. They're doing fantastic performances. Olivia Lepore is brilliant. I think she's fantastic as Swann Holloway. I think she deserves a lot more credit in terms of the accent that she puts on in the game. In terms of also, you have to remember she's a professional trained actor, and she's switching between adult Swann and young Swann. And even itself, it feels like she has to dumb down her performance when she's playing a deep introverted Swann who makes fumbling mistakes as well, because that might not be her personality in real life, but she's tapping into this kind of thing of giving Swann a lot of soul. And I think she's fantastic. Same with Andrea Carter, same with Natalie, same with Amelia. All the actors who are playing the girls as well, they're all fantastic. So far, I'm really vibing off each of the characters. I think they've all come in and delivered a really good performance, and I think Philip Bache deserves a lot of that credit, because he's just taken that game to where it needs to be. It's giving that Life is Strange-esque vibe, but also taking it into a new direction. It's not just we're repeating the same formula, but trying to give it a different, give it that lick of paint that Don't Nod Montreal is trying to give into that game. So kudos to Philip Bache as well, and we'll be talking about this more as well. I'll be giving him a lot more of my impressions on Philip Bache's work, and once we finish the game as well, and I can talk about it in the podcast, because I do think that he is the unsung hero as well here. Obviously, a lot of credit to Michel. Michel's a fantastic director. It's great to see Michel come into his own as a solo director as well, because obviously, if you followed Michel's work all the way back to Remember Me, working as an art director and working in the behind the scenes, but then also Life is Strange 1 and 2 co-directing with Raoul Barbet. It's nice to see him take the director's chair on his own, and then also as well with the collaborative process that Don't Nod Montreal has brought together as well. He's got a really great vision of as a stylistic. I would consider him as an author. He's got a very distinct style as a game director. So all kudos to that. So I'm not going to go on for too long because obviously I want to keep this brief. Whilst I will say there are positive, there are limitations as well. I will have to touch on this as well. You know, for me as well, for example, the frame rate on the PlayStation 5, like it is dropping as well. I reviewed Life is Strange 1 when I was back in the industry. I reviewed Life is Strange 2 in parts. And I remember the first one I did I was one of those vocal critics that said that the technical frame rate was quite poor in that game. It struggled to hold up to it. And I'm seeing parts of that within this game as well. And it's unfortunate as well. I think they could patch it in certain respects. And I think I'm hoping that they do be able to get those patches rolling out at some point as well, but it is a little bit, hindering. But again, in itself, I kind of understand it as well, because now that I've seen the game in full action, I don't even think this is a double A game. I do consider it fully as an indie game because the budgeting is nowhere near even at double A standard at this point. So I think it's giving me a bit of insight in terms of we are limited. You've seen how many characters are in the game. You've seen how many actors are in the game. They are working within good resources. And I think if anything, they are tapping into them really well. So far, that is a bit of a jarring issue technical wise. And in itself as well, one or two other little things as well. I think maybe I think that in the sense that when we talk about technical, that's a bit of an issue, but then also lip syncing as well. I think the lip syncing has been a bit noticeable again on this as well. I was criticizing lip syncing in the first Life is Strange, and it seemed to improve a bit in Life is Strange 2, but I think again, we're back at that point where I think I will be critical of it. I think that at some points the lip syncing is very unusual in parts with this game, and I'm a bit I wish it wasn't like that, but it is what it is. So unfortunately, that is another caveat. It doesn't take away from the full experience. It's not anywhere near as bad as the first Life is Strange, but it kind of shows you as well, this is the difference of for example, doing full performance capture, which has been done in the Life is Strange series in recent memory. They are just doing motion capture and they're also doing VO work. So it is a limitation on that. So in general sense, I'm liking it so far. And actually, before I round out, I did put that negatives in there, but I'm going to round off with the writing. I think the writing is really good in certain respects. I think Jean-Luc and Michel have, for me, what I like about this game is they haven't backed off from where they were with Life is Strange 2. So when Michel and Jean-Luc are writing this game, it feels like it's embracing some of the Diaz brothers writing style, the heritage that they brought into that, and the same with the first Life is Strange. It's not just like a full-on backtrack to the first Life is Strange and playing it safe. It does feel like they acknowledge and embrace some of the key thematic elements that they developed within the first Life is Strange and the second Life is Strange. I feel like the second Life is Strange is even more story-focused. It feels very much more similar to this game in certain respects, in terms of having the protagonist really drive the game forward with very close relationships with certain characters and the lack of power, for example. So it's quite nice to see that. And I think I've seen people already spewing out that thing where it's cringe and etc. I think it's such a lazy criticism to make in the industry. If you're going to use cringe, it has to actually be referred to when writing is bad. And with these kind of games that Don't Nod make anyway, cringe is a certain element that needs to be included in the game. So for me, I'm fine with that. And in itself, and we kind of talked about this on the podcast as well, I did say that Nina and Desiree, two of the American writers that came on to help Jean-Luc and Michel, would be really essential for this game. And they have turned out to be like that, because I think you start seeing it as well, especially when the girls are older in adult forms. Those adult conversations are really interesting to hear. So I think I'm really quite happy to see what's happening there in terms of the dynamic that those two American writers have infused within this game as well. That they've brought this kind of that heritage of the characters, because Michel and Jean-Luc, despite being very talented as they are, will know that they have to bring in those writers to kind of help refine the game. So that's my general impression so far. I'm going to leave it at that. And as I said, wait for the spoiler cast and the review episodes come out on Lost Records Journal. It's obviously going to be the big one. We've been running this for that podcast for almost a year. We've been talking about Don't Nod Montreal's game for about 4 years. We were covering on StrangeCast all the way back when StrangeCast was actually conceived as an idea. So it's great to actually finally play the game. So do stay tuned for that. Obviously, as soon as me and Adam record it, I'll try and turn it over as soon as possible. It could be on the weekend. It might even be sooner. I'm going to try and hopefully drag it out earlier. And the plan is for me and Adam to also do another Lost Records Journal, which will be like a review of the reviews episode, I think he said. So it's looking at the critical consensus, talking about that. So I think we'll kind of be doing that on the weekend. So there will be a quick succession of videos coming to this channel. So do stay tuned for that. But let me know what you're thinking about the game so far as well. Keep it spoiler-free, guys, as well. Come on, let's just keep it spoiler-free, because people haven't played this game. It's just come out. It's got a physical release. I do ask you to respect that. On the spoilercast episode, when we drop it as well, and the review episode, you can comment in there as well. So just keep it for time being to yourself. But let me know what you think generally about the game. Are you vibing with it? Are you not vibing with it? Do you think it could pick up? Let me know what you think in the comments. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little quick impressions video. As I said, we will be back with a big episode. That's going to be a massive episode for us. But if you are new here, as always, please do consider dropping subscribe on the channel, turn notifications, like the video, share with your friends, help support the channel, helps keep up to date with all the content we do, discussions, podcasts, interviews, all kinds of things. We will be covering this game meticulously up until the second tape, and even after the second tape, and even when the franchise continues as well, because we're very excited for it. So let me know what you think in the comments. Stay tuned to the channel. We'll be back with full impressions, but I hope you found that helpful as well. I just kind of wanted to give my early impressions so far, but as always as well, thank you again to Don't Nod for giving us keys for this. It's really appreciated for that. And yeah, let us know what you think, guys. See you later. Bye.